You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome back to Beyond Wellness Radio. We have Jim Klopman here, who's the founder of the Slack Bow. I'm really excited to interview him today. We're going to be talking about exercise and balance and how that can help improve your performance and your brain in general. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. We appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, tell me a little bit more about yourself and kind of your journey and how you've gotten up to this point today.
Well, at age 50, I ski well. I've been skiing since I was 3, and I wanted to ski well in my 70s and 80s. And I was trying to figure out how to do that. I saw a lot of guys stop skiing or not ski as well. And I knew it couldn't be skill because the more you do something, the better you get. Yeah. And I didn't think it'd be strength because, I'm 64. I'm as strong today as I was when I was 30. So fitness today is awesome. Health, because of guys like you, is awesome. So what was the missing factor? And I determined, I think, at the time that it was balance. So I looked into the industry for some balance training. There wasn't anything that really was a challenge to me. Mm-hmm. So I created some of my own methods, and my skiing got better, which I was kind of shocked at. Then I took these methods and I applied it to other athletes, and they were all getting better in their sports. And I just kind of came to this one determination that balance is a subconscious autonomic system, or part of ANS, mm-hmm. and that you can only ski as fast as your balance system allows you. You can only hit a golf ball as hard as your balance system allows you, because if you go over that limit, you're not going to be able to hold up when you hit the golf ball, or you're going to fall when you ski.
Absolutely. And we're talking alpine skiing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But we have great experience with skate skiers and cross-country skiers as well. We have skate skiers that we've trained that will say, I can't believe it. Day one, first day of this year, I was as good as I was last day of last year. There's a massive amount of balance in those two forms of skiing as well.
Yeah, I'm actually a water skier, and I also was a long-term alpine skier as well. So huge fan of skiing, a lot of proprioceptive coordination with that.
Right. Right.
I totally agree. And again, people forget one of the main feedback, the mechanoreceptors to the brain, that's where a lot of the feedback comes from the brain, is from movement.
Right.
And if we're not moving, and if we're not stimulating the muscles and the ligaments and the tendons to work in a certain way, that brain loses that nourishment and that communicational feedback, which is so important.
Right. It's massive. In fact, there's great reason. What we spend a lot of time working with athletes on, too, is improving their peripheral vision. So we see that, or we believe, for the numbers we've looked at, about 90% of the information that comes in to the subconscious system comes in through the peripheral vision. So when you do things like a balance challenge, you're engaging it's a total neural load. And it's the thing we do to have fun. It's the thing that makes us feel better. Nobody ever says, hey, I need to spend more time in the office. You need to get out. You need motorcycle riding, water skiing, snow skiing. Any of these things are all going to an amusement park. Our balance challenges that just make us feel better.
Yeah, 100%. And so tell me about the Slack Bow. So the Slack Bow is one of these things that you created. I mean, they've been slacklining for a while. My friend, massage therapist, he's a huge slackliner. He puts slack lines across the boardwalk down at Lake Austin and such, and he does a lot of slacklining. And he did one, I think, down in Moab last year. It was like a 300 or 400-foot slack line. So
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
great. I think it really has a lot of proprioceptive stimulation to the
Right.
brain. But tell me about how you came upon the slack line, how that helped improve your health, and just describe what that is in case listeners don't know what that
Well,
is.
slacklining is a 1 to 2 inch wide flat web that people will stretch over long distances and walk on like a tightrope rope. Now they're doing this highlining stuff nowadays, which is amazing. They're like in Moab, they're 400 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, they have safety built in. They're hooked in with a beaner and a harness. But what I determined when I was started on the slackline years ago was that I didn't want to walk on it because I didn't feel like there was any athletic position where one foot's directly in front of the other. In fact, there's a tendency to be a little back on your heel.
Right.
All athletic sports are played on the front part of your foot. So I created the slack bow, which is a form that'll hold a 2-inch web on it that we can have infinite levels of adjustment in terms of the drop of the curve or how loose or how tight it is. And we just do 1 foot positions on it. So I then took that and advanced it another step, and we actually have applied for a patent on something called a slack plate, which is it's a 3.5 inch wide plate we put on a 2-inch line. What we determined is a tight wire is easier than a rope. A rope is easier than a 1-inch line. A 1-inch line is easier than a 2-inch line, and a 2-inch line is easier than a 3.5 inch plate. So the wider the platform is under your foot, the harder it is to balance. And we take people through 3 positions. We call it the 12-minute routine. We do straight on parallel. We do diagonal, where the big toe and second toe is on the board. And then we do perpendicular, where we're across the board. These 3 positions represent the 3 major balance challenges that you have. You have a left to right, you have a rotational balance challenge, and you have a front and back challenge. So when we get on there, we do what's called 2 minutes of attempts. Now, I've had slackliners come into the studio and they, hey, can we play on your equipment? I'm like, sure. So they walk back and forth, turn around. They do some cool stuff, jump around. But I say, you want to try what we do? And they go, okay. To stand on a slack line on 1 foot for 2 minutes is pretty damn hard. And we've had the fittest athletes in the world come in and they go, I'm sweating after 30 seconds. And what's happening is you're engaging every little muscle in your body and no big muscles. And then we add other components to that where we do what's called neural loading. We'll have you pick up a kettlebell. It'll throw you off balance. We'll start throwing things at you after either catch or knock off. We'll even make noises around you or bang you with foam sticks. All these things kind of load the neural system differently while you're in this maximal balance challenge.
And did you say when the surface area gets wider, it gets harder? Is that what you were saying?
Right.
That's almost sounds counterintuitive. You think
it is
more surface area, you think more stability. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure why. Okay, number one. So here's my guess. One is that we have like this ape-like prehensile ability to kind of grab with the bottom of our feet.
Yeah.
After all, our hands have 25% of the bones and muscles in our body. Well, our feet also have 25% of the bones and muscles in our body. In a sense, they have similar characteristics in terms of their movement and how they're structured. Now, that's one theory. The other theory is a more mechanical one, that if I'm on something and if I'm just rolling from side to side on a thin form, that's one thing. But now if I'm out here and I roll to the outside, it's turning the whole foot, so to speak, and it now becomes, and we find that if this is the inside of the foot, this is a big toe, this is the outside of the foot, as soon as somebody gets the outside of the foot, because there's really no muscles here, right? As soon as they get here, boom, they go. So we're always trying to keep them slightly pronated, and this is what we talk about too. We believe in knee pronation, and I know it's a sin to talk about that because weightlifting, you're supposed to have your knee straight over your toes, but every athletic move, I don't care what move it is, whether you're turning, hitting, throwing, you end up pronating one knee inside the toe. So we're a big believer in pronating the knee to balance better. And again, it works. That plate makes it more difficult. When you're on a line, it makes it less difficult. And I used to keep a 1-inch line in the gym because I'd get the same challenge all the time. And I'd get it out and I'd string it up and show people. But I tell people now that come in, they train with me, I say, just next time you see a rope fence, go stand on it. It's easy compared to standing on the 2-inch line.
Interesting. And again, that makes sense. You know, pronation is basically kind of the knee kind of moving inward a little bit, but you're not putting it under load outside of your body weight. So it makes sense that it's more for balance than it is for kind of loaded reps, correct?
Well, we will load it too, but we won't load it with massive loads. Don't get me wrong. If you're doing, maximal weightlifting, and we talked about this the other day.
Like squats or front squats, those things. You don't want your knees to collapse in that much with those.
No, that's a different thing altogether, but we will do And they talk in some of these other sports about how do you build strength inside the leg? Because when you're doing squats, you're building a lot of strength on the outside of the, I don't know whether to call them quads or not. I don't know if you know they've discovered a new muscle amongst the quads. So now it's really the quints. But
Oh, really?
yeah, but I mean, it's just the point is, when you're building in those squats, you're building a lot of strength in the outside leg, but it's the inside of the leg that's pushing off and moving in directional, to change directions and whether it hit things. So we'll actually do strength work, but it's not maximal strength work. We'll get people into it. What we call, we'll put one leg low, one leg high on a platform and have them do a squat. And what happens is that lower leg will actually pronate a little bit and carry most of the weight, and the upper leg won't have any weight on it at all. And that's the position that you're in when you run and cut.
Okay, interesting. So just trying to understand your progression. So you kind of went to this from a performance enhancement for the skiing aspect.
Right.
And then were there any neurological issues in the past or neurological brain issues that you were trying to improve or address?
None that I knew of.
Okay.
I've always had this fascination with, I have one of those brains that's, I've flunked 8th grade 2 years in a row. I flunked 9th grade. And, you know the report card. Oh, hey, Jim's, brilliant. Why doesn't he get his work done? That kind of thing. And, I've sat on the board of a very large organization that has professional mental health care practitioners, and I was their advisor. So I was exposed to the best psychologists in the world. But finally, one day in my late 50s, I said, something's not right. So I went to see Dr. Daniel Amen, the great brain doctor. Yep. And he did a SPECT scan, and they came back and said, boy, you have a lot of brain damage. You've got the brain of an NFL football player. So that means I was on my way to chronic traumatic encephalopathy or early Alzheimer's or dementia. So I was like, oh crap mode. And then one of the great things about their post review, when they were showing me the scans and so forth, they said, boy, you have a tremendous amount of damage to your cerebellum, and we believe in neuroplasticity. So what we want you to do is you need to balance train. And I said, well, but I do that every day because that's my business. And they go, no, you need to do more. And I go, no, you don't understand. There's nobody my age in this country that has balance as good as I do. I balance train all the time. And they kept arguing with me. And finally I said, screw it. Okay, I'll do more balance work. But then at that point, it sort of made sense to me why I did it and why it made me felt so much better and more integrated. And for me, when I'm skiing, you're a former alpine skier, you're a water skier. Those are high speed, high intensity, huge amount of data coming in the system. Your brain goes quiet. That's when my brain was quiet. It was at 60 miles an hour on a slope. It was not quiet if I'm sitting around on a desk. Right. So I pushed in through that, and I talk a lot about it in the book, but there's a lot of great research that says you take a walk in a cityscape, your brain maybe improves a little bit. You take a walk in an uneven surface on a path with, fractal surfaces like those trees behind you all over the place, which are all balance challenges. You produce a different level of chemicals in your brain. So, there's real solid proof that says these balance challenges do help the brain. And it's, you go do these things on the weekends so you can get up and go to work on Monday morning and have it sort of drawn out of you by Friday, and you get up and do it again on Saturday. So
totally. So walk me through that. So you got the SPECT scan. Were you doing this type of slackline training before or pre-SPECT scan? So you were already doing that pre. So and then you mentioned certain areas of the cerebellum, which is this area right in the back of the head there, that first bump. Right. Those areas weren't lighting up?
So what happened? Yeah, what they show in the SPECT scan is they show it looks like a tissue scan, but it's not. You'll see these black holes. I don't have a photo with me, but you see these black holes, and those are non-functioning parts of the brain. So I have a giant ding in the prefrontal cortex, which makes sense because I used to have real bad problems with judgment. I got a big ding in the corpus callosum area, but in the back of the head is just totally muddled and sort of knocked out. And I just thought it was interesting. We all think that the balance center is in the cerebellum, or they do. Yeah. But one thing I found, clearly, and you're a doctor, is that there's 40,000 neuroscientists in the world. Yeah. And about 20,000 of them are researching the brain-body, interface. So if we knew what the hell was going on, these things wouldn't be happening, where somebody like me has a virtually destroyed cerebellum but has great balance.
Oh, absolutely. There's other parts of the brain that can definitely compensate and pick up where other areas aren't doing as well. And so what happened post-op? So did you increase your training? What happened, and what did the post-scan look like? Were there improvements?
I haven't done any post scans, but just to let you know, I went into because I have no problem going onto the bleeding edge of any technology. I started doing some autologous stem cell work, and I think that that's had a help. That's helped me some too. So I just take, they were pulling it from my bone marrow 3 years ago. Now they're doing it from fat, but we're spinning it and pulling it out, and then just doing it in a little IV push. And I've had a couple of intrathecals done as well. I think those things may help, but I'm waiting probably another year or two before I go back in and have a test done. So I work at it from a couple of different angles. I do a lot more balance now. I used to do balance instinctively. I just felt better afterwards, and it's really a business model problem for me. But I do it instinctively now. I'm more conscious about doing it more regularly, and it helps. And the reason it's a business model problem is that people come in and they work with us and they get a massive workout, but they leave feeling good. They leave feeling integrated. And typically people associate feeling like shit means a good workout, right? I hate my trainer kicked my ass. So we don't give you that sensation, but we have had clients that'll leave and go, I left your place, and later that afternoon, I went to go to a spin class and I had to beg out halfway through because I was out of gas. We do deplete the system, but we deplete it and you feel wholly integrated and well. And just like you feel like after you've water skied for the day, or you've snow skied for the day, man, you feel great, but you've been gassed.
Absolutely. I mean, you're really stimulating the nervous system to recruit more fibers in a different way to provide that stability versus just that gross power and force, so to speak. So that makes a lot of sense. Right. And how important right now for you and for your improvements and for the people that you work with is the dietary component? Are you really making sure the inflammation's reduced, the nutrient density's up, decreasing toxins? What's that component like?
I don't personally, I do a lot on it. I've been because I read somewhere, like I said, I'll jump on things when I shouldn't. 25 years ago, the brain, needs a massive amount of fat. I've been on a high butter diet my whole life, so to speak, and it really helps me. Of course, now it's become popular with Dave Asprey and the Bulletproof Diet.
Ketogenic, all that. Yep.
I've trained him, and I think that it's an important factor. It's just something I stay away from. I'll point people in that direction, and what I'm, basically I just say high fat, and you got to get more microbes. I don't think any of us get enough or the right microbes in our system. And I know myself, when I'm in some sort of microbial imbalance, the microbiome's not correct, it will affect my balance. It will affect my performance. Totally. We work with MS patients, and we work with, like I said, these people who have concussions, and you can see sometimes in them that things change. I'll ask them, "What'd you eat yesterday?" And you can see things change with that too. So.
Oh yeah, I see that a lot. I mean, there's some research studies showing that just gluten exposure decreases blood flow up the carotid arteries, which are these little garden hoses at the side of your neck, and that can decrease frontal cortex kind of output or stimulation. Right. So, again, like you mentioned, your cerebellum wasn't as active. There are probably other areas that are picking up the slack. So we want to make sure we have oxygen and nutrition, and that's all going to happen via blood flow. And if we're pinching that off, that makes sense. We'll have an impairment for sure.
Right, and it's the neural loading too. Your vagus nerve is your biggest nerve, and if it's overworking because it's trying to coordinate crap between your stomach and your brain, that's a problem. Recently I can't remember the name of the university. It always escapes me. But recently they discovered that there's brain tissue in the lower back that actually takes data from the feet and manipulates it and sends it back down to the lower extremities. So there's even balance information that's not even going to the brain. You have these little pockets of brain tissue in the stomach and the heart, and now they found a little pocket of brain tissue in the lower spine. So to me, it's all this, people talk about brain and I, my own brain, but I just think that this balance system is like magic. I mean, there's stuff going on everywhere. We teach people how to use their hands. And I had a guy this morning had an amazing breakthrough, and he goes, I get it. I feel it. I understand it. And I think that there's data that comes in through here that we don't even know about. And the tongue, we see people all the time position their tongues in different places. And there's research that came out of the University of Wisconsin with Dr. Paul Backrita, the guy who sort of discovered the whole neuroplasticity deal, that they take a neurostimulator, they call it a PONS device. It's a portable neurostimulator. They put it on the tongue, and they have people who have zero vestibular system. They put it on the tongue and they stand up. and they can walk and they can move within seconds of putting the thing in. And the crazy thing is they take it out. There's a residual effect that'll last an hour or two. And the more they use it, the longer the residual effect goes for. So it's like, okay, they got it destroyed, the whole tube system and the vestibular system's gone, but here they are up walking and moving. What the hell's going on? It's such a complex system. I don't think we can say it's one thing or another. It's everywhere.
So what was that device in the mouth again?
It's called the PODS. It's called the Portable Neurostimulator. It was developed at University of Wisconsin, Dr. Paul Bacretta's lab. I forget what they call it now. And there's now, I think, a Canadian company had it for a while, and they were trying to get FDA approval, and now it's in a company in Pennsylvania someplace. But the problem is, FDA nowadays, how does it work? Of course, aspirin would never have gotten approved. It's how does it work? Nobody knows how it works. Other than what we see with the concussion patients is when we stimulate the whole nervous system, the whole neural load, they get better. And we have physical therapists that have had concussion, post-concussion syndrome in their own team, their own group of doctors and other physical therapists can't help them. They come in, they get fixed because we stimulate all this nervous system. Well, they believe with the portable neural stimulator that just by stimulating the tongue's one of the nerve richest parts of the body, stimulating those nerves somehow connects the other. I don't know. They don't know.
So this device just sits in your mouth and it provides like a stimulation of the tongue. Is that what it's doing?
So they put it in your mouth and it's got a plate with little stimulators all over it.
Got it.
And then there's a little piece out here that's got a level on it.
Yeah.
So you lean your head to the left, you get stimulation on this side. You lean your head to the right, you get lean back. So the tongue becomes this sort of what those three tubes are supposed to do in your vestibular system.
Yeah. Starts
to sort of tell you where you are. And that's pretty cool. What's cool, though, is when they take the thing out.
And you keep that benefit.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
And it stays for a while, and we have the same results. It'll stay for a while, and then boom, like 2 hours later. And you're talking before about well-being and balance. Bacretta's first patient was a woman named, last name was Schlitz. She had a destroyed balance system. She put this thing in her mouth. 15 seconds, she's up, she's got her balance, and then she'd take it out, and the residual effect would last an hour. It would last longer and longer, but she said, every time, and she knew she had the cure to her balance problem. She said, every time I lost my balance system after that residual effect wore off, I immediately got depressed. And so you have people who have Meniere's disease, they go, oh, it's caused by depression. I'm not so sure that the Meniere's disease is the primary and the depression's the secondary.
Interesting. Okay, so, and by the way, I think I remember the Slackbow over at Bulletproof. Did Dave Asprey have it at the Bulletproof conference?
Yeah, I had it there 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very cool. And so,
see, you look familiar too. So now,
okay. All right. Cool. We're putting it all together. So looking back here, right? So did you start just doing slacklining before you went to the bow, and then created the bow more kind of as convenience? Is that kind of how it worked?
That's a good question. So I put up a slack line. I was looking for something in the industry. I can stand on a bongo board and do all sorts of crazy things on that. Bosus were never any challenges, although we use Bosus in very unique ways now.
Right.
And we use balance boards. I mean, we make our own balance boards now, but I got on the line. I said, I can't do it. This is a balance challenge. This is what I need. You're not going to get stronger if you lift 5 pounds a day, right? Mm-hmm. You got to lift 5 pounds. You get better. You lift 10 pounds, 20 pounds. You get stronger. Well, it's the same thing with balance. You just can't do it and go, oh, I'll just do this, because you're not going to get better unless it's a real challenge. Well, it was a challenge. And then I started playing around with it going, well, all balance is on one foot or the other. Whether you're skiing or whatever the sport is, you're putting weight on one foot or the other. Even in your sport of water skiing, it used to be all back. Now you're moving forward to the turn, you're moving back. So there is a one foot, other 2 foot type of thing going on. Yeah. You run, you're on one foot or the other. You hit something, you're transitioning away from one foot to the other. So it's all 1 foot. So I started doing some 1 foot work on it and adding other components to it. And I said, well, this is it. It's not the walking, because if you have 1 foot directly in front of the other, that's a very unstable position. Everything, these are my feet. I'm going to be here or here. I'm never going to be like this. So after that, I said, well, I got to do this on a regular basis, but I can't keep stringing it up on trees. I can't keep wrecking trees, So I tried to build my own frame. That didn't work. I contacted Auburn University, and they hooked me up to their senior class, and your senior class, engineering class, designed my slack bow for me. And so they're partners in it, and I got 7 students on my patent with me.
That's very cool. And what does a slack bow cost?
They're $14.95 plus shipping. It's a big device. It's 15 feet long. We have this thing called a slack block, and I'll send you a couple. It's 13 inches long, and it probably 80% replicates the movements that you have on the slack bow. I say, the way you define a good balance challenge is it has to engage the whole body.
Okay.
If you're just wiggling the bottom of your feet or just your butt's moving, your ankle's moving, and the upper body has to stay still, it's not a balance challenge. Until you feel like you have to engage this whole system up here, does it become a true balance challenge.
So if someone wants to, try one of these devices or exercises, what's the best, if you're on a slack line or on the slack bow, what are the best top 3 movements to start to kind of get your, foot wet, so to speak?
Well, it's a good question. So if you get on a slack line, first of all, it's best to have it close to the ground. If you have to have it high up, and I'll send you some videos, but if you get on our slack bow, we have you close to it. So there's no kind of push to get up there because you'll get exhausted.
Right.
And you'll wear out your quad. So we just want you to roll on, lift off the other foot. So close to the ground is important. The other is to be in an athletic position. The athletic position is if I got one foot on the line, I'm pressing forward on the inside front quadrant of my foot, my knees bent. I'm not bending over at the waist.
Yep.
I'm dropping down into it. And the other legs kick back a little bit. And then you just kind of have to let things move freely. You can't, we have dancers come in, they want to hold positions, and cheerleaders or other athletes want to hold tight.
Yep.
You got to let loose, and we'll see athletes that come in and do a lot of big weights. And I know these aren't good medical terms, so I hate to talk like this in front of a doctor, but we consider we have big mobilizer muscles and the small stabilizer muscles.
Of course.
Well, these guys that are super active with the big muscles, they come in and they can't move. And it's funny, you'll see them and all they can do is wave their hands. And they're like, why are my hands doing this? And I'm going, that's the only thing that you have left that can move. Over time, the more balance they get, the more things start to release. And people have back problems come in. They go, I got a back problem. And then they'll work for 2 hours and they'll come back and they'll call me the next day and go, my back problems, I have no more pain. And I think it's because they've done so much work with the big muscles that all the big muscles can do is kind of go on, off, on, off. And that whole spine area has just got thousands of little stabilizer muscles, and they have to be able to move and flex. And once we activate those, it takes the big muscles from going on, off, and the little muscles start to take over.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think a lot of people, too, just from training and going to the gym, they typically train their muscles in 2-dimensional ways. They use machines essentially make these muscles big and stupid, and they're 2-dimensional. And that's the problem, because muscles need to work in 3 dimensionals. That's how you get the tendons and the ligaments to work and stabilize, right? And so when you jump on your slack line, for instance, or any type of device that requires 3-dimensional stabilization, you're right. You can barely do anything because your nervous system has to recruit every big muscle that you don't have much range of motion left after the fact.
You're 1,000% right. And we see that. The other things that drive me crazy is that when you see in a gym or any weightlifting, it's all bilateral movement. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in sport that's bilateral movement. Everything's going to be ipsilateral, crossing the body, crossing the center line. So this is crazy. Number 2, you see people who, it's a lockout. So I got to go back on my heels. I take my pelvis. I know there's a more anterior posterior tilt, but I call it rolling under, rolling back. Yeah. They rolled their ass under. They've locked out their knees. They're on their heels. No sport anywhere is played on your heels. Nothing is. And then and I'm sure you see back problems coming. You see old men lose their asses because they've rolled them under the whole time. They've lost structure and muscle in their glutes, and now their back's carrying all the weight. Their hamstrings are small, and they got bad backs. I think it's just, I don't get it. Why would you build strength in all these positions and all these motions that you don't use anywhere athletically?
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people that have back issues, they lose the ability to have proper hip extension out of the glutes. And so instead of bending, or instead of hinging at the hips, they're bending at the back, and you're getting more ligamentous activation. And the biggest muscles of the body, right, the ones that make the best filet steak ever, right, in the glute, they aren't even working. And like you said, these guys, they come in, their glutes are all atrophied, right? You should have that kind of, for a female, you call it an upside down heart shape. And the heart shape's the right side up because their gluteus medius are overactive, and their glute max at the bottom are all weak and atrophied.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so you get it. So, but when we go in the gym, we don't look at that. And the other is we see people walk. We teach people how to walk. You're walking on these shoes that have, 10 to 15 millimeter lifts, and then you got the toes rolled up, And people are walking in that. We actually stand people up and say, stand with good posture. And then I push them on the shoulders and they just fall over.
Right.
Then we have them take off their shoes, get on the inside part of their toes, bend their knees a little bit, roll their posterior out a little bit so they're engaging their glutes. They're stable as can be. Then they go back to walking like that. And so we teach people how to walk, because if you want to be an athlete, don't just be an athlete for the 2 hours you're on the tennis court or you're on the football field and then you walk like a nudge the rest of the time.
Yeah.
You've seen great athletes. When great athletes walk, it's clear that they're great athletes. Because they move like cats.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, move like that all day long, you're just going to become a better athlete.
Absolutely. And I think Paul Chek and Mike Boyle have talked about this too, where a lot of the lifting movements, whether it's a squat or deadlift or even a bench press, you're mounted on the ground and you're pushing or you're extending or you're pressing. And they talked about, like, for instance, you have someone that has a 400 or 500 pound bench press. Well, you get them on a cable on a one leg and then doing a press forward with a single arm. They can't even press nearly as close to when they're stable because the stability isn't there, because you got to be stable before you can recruit, right?
There's no doubt about it. And I had an interview with some CrossFit guys the other day, and we talked about CrossFit. And they said, well, I said, you can't lift any more weight than what your balance system will allow you. They said, what do you mean? It's because your body goes, no, damn it, you're going to get hurt. So it'll subconsciously, it is the most powerful part of the ANS. I can slow down my heart. I can speed it up. I can stop breathing. I can start breathing. I can change blood flow. You can't sit here and go, I'm going to lose my balance. You'll fake it. But you're not losing your balance. And you can't stand here and say, I'm going to make my balance better. I can't run and cut any faster than my balance system will allow me. So with the weights, it holds, I can only lift up so much. Well, the guy who won CrossFit Games this year, they had a trail run. I mean, a gnarly ass trail run. I don't know if you saw it. God, it was brutal. He kicked everybody's ass. And you could see him moving. And it was the first event. And I just said, this guy's going to win. And then he placed second in the sprints because he cut around the cones better than anybody else. And I looked at his sprint performance the year before. So he placed second in the sprints. I think he would have placed first if he'd been in the same heat as the guy who got number one. Last year in the sprints, he placed 24th and 32nd. Well, you don't get that much better by training over the year. He did something different. And I think somehow he's done something to improve his balance or improve his coordination and agility. So even it's finding its way in the sports like that. And I agree, even when of course, I think lifting weights on your back is patently stupid. Mm-hmm. But, lifting weights while you're standing, if you improve your balance, you'll be able to lift more and improve your kinetic chain at the same time.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of contralateral and ipsilateral single leg work, whether it's single leg deadlifts or even just presses or just, movement that involves single leg, whether it's a push or pull, I think is a great starting point.
Right. Have you heard about the research on Parkinson's in boxing? They've discovered
Are you talking about like the injuries, the head trauma?
No, they have
more the actual movement. Okay, go ahead.
Elderly people who have Parkinson's in I don't know what you call them, but retirement homes.
Yes.
Some trainer several years ago took them to a gym and they just started boxing. People hadn't talked for a couple of years, started talking. People were getting up out of wheelchairs. And to me, everybody goes, oh, well, what's the boxing? Now the researchers are looking. I'm going, it's simple. You're doing an ipsilateral crossing the center line movement. And they're just doing this. And they're getting healthy. And I'm sure you've seen chronic patients that come in that just seem to have that homolateral left leg, left arm movement. And they're missing that whole ipsilateral movement when they walk and move.
Totally. And that makes sense. And hopefully they're not, taking the punches on the other side of the fence with the brain Parkinson's issues going on. That probably wouldn't help.
They're not hitting each other. They're just hitting a bag.
It's just the punching movements. Yeah. And it's interesting, too, because I see, some of the main benefits of exercise is really being neurological. And I think there's a handful of CEOs that have written an article where they talk about exercise for them is it's more brain work than it is muscle work. And, frankly, a lot of people, they're motivated to exercise typically to lose weight and to look better naked. I mean, that's frankly the major motivations. But we want to step it up one notch and say, okay, yeah, that may be great on the superficial aesthetic side, but your brain and the neurology and your nervous system is even, one level up, I think.
You get it. My God, you get it. And I love that you get it, but you're right. How many marketing companies I've spoken to said, well, you need to have some, buff guy that's there. And I said, well, look, I'm 64 and I got like low body fat and I'm fit and all that. And they go, yeah, but you need to have somebody with, the big, massive muscle tits and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to do it. So.
Right. And so I want to just make sure, let's say people want to, go all in and just start doing some slackline or procure your device.
Right.
Let's just go over those top 3 exercises one more time. So they jump on it, they're on it, they're kind of in tandem, left leg's in front of the right,
Well,
vice versa.
they don't even have to start on a slack line. They can start on the ground.
Okay, great.
So start on the ground with one foot, knee bent, the other foot back, and just balance for just a couple minutes like that. Now, if you want an added challenge, you don't have to buy my slack block. You can just put a couple sets of folded bath towels underneath it, and that creates enough instability right there.
So we have left leg, right leg, kind of like in tandem or vice
exactly
versa.
Right. So I wish I could stand back, but this is your left leg, and your right leg, the toe is lined up with the heel, but you bent forward and you're on your knee and you're like this, and you let that whole body move. Now, if you want to add
are you just going back and forth, and you're just trying to move your hands and kind of adapt
just
to it?
try to hold still. Try to stay up for as long as you can. 2 minutes, and don't lock out, but let the body move. Now, if you want to add a challenge to that, take a kettlebell and put it on the ground like a foot in front of you. Pick it up. Put it down 6 inches in front of you. Put it down another 6 inches in front of you. You can't bend at the waist to do that. You have to drop down into a deep one-legged squat with that other leg, and it's a massive balance challenge. The lower you get on that one leg, it's a massive challenge. So get the other leg off the ground, right? Only on one leg, and then reach out as far as you can. You find that you have to collapse in an organized way. You can't bend at the waist. So your chest are always lined up with your chest is always lined up with your knees. And as you drop down, you go down, down, down. It's harder and harder to pick that thing out in front of you.
And you're saying the front leg comes off the ground with that because you're bending over?
Yeah.
Got it. So it's
and
like
I'll create a video for your folks if you want to hook up, link up to that. But that's one. The other is that, if you want to advance to a slack line, do that. But, there's a lot of people that aren't even ready to do that. Same thing, just get on one foot and just stay up as long as you can on one foot. My partner, Janet, gives me hell because I'm always teaching people how to push them along. The reality is if you stand on a slack line with 1 foot, your body's going to find the right position. Your kinetic chain's going to find the right, all those things are going to come together. I don't have to teach you a thing. And my business would be easy and I'd make more money if I just say, well, get up there and I'll come back and check on you 20 minutes from now, because you'll get better automatically. Here's the thing, it's a software system. So if I teach you how to play golf, you have to spend time learning how to build the skills and those muscle memory things. If I want you to lift weights, you have to lift weights so much to get better. We have people that'll come in and train, and at the end of, let's say, the session, they're at level 2. They come back, they'll be at level 3. The body just is starting to work on it immediately. Right. And improvement is massive. The thing that will happen to you, and again, the slack line, stand on that one leg, is your leg will it'll start to go in what we call sewing machine motion. And we call that neurological confusion. So if you see me on the slack line, I'm steady. I kind of float, but I still move. I can't hold perfectly still. That sewing machine motion is you have the same firing pattern I do. You're just not organized. So your muscles are going, no, you fire. No, you fire. You fire. You fire. Well, don't let that sewing machine motion upset you. You can't consciously go, stop it. Although I have great athletes that go, stop. They yell at it, grab their leg. Just let it happen, because it's your body going, hey, we're figuring this shit out. And they do. And it's amazing how much better you get, how quickly.
That's great. Okay, so we have just kind of your tandem stand. You have the bend where you're almost doing a one-legged squat or deadlift as you pick up that kettlebell. What's the next movement they could do?
Well, another thing that we talk about with the pronation, and again, this is so, it's like, I know young girls have problems with pronation and they're tearing ACLs, but what we do is we say, don't pronate, build strength outside the pronation. I'm like, no, if you pronate, build strength in that. God lets your knee pronate massively. So why aren't I allowed to pronate? So we do what are just simple leaps side to sides. We call them side to sides, but I wish I could get away, but if you're like this, we want you to go out, land on the inside front of your foot, land on the inside front of your foot. If you land and you roll to the outside, you've lost control, and we want you just to narrow that stance. You just go boom, boom, boom. And in order to make this happen, your knee has to pronate. Okay. There's nothing, if you try to go straight knee over your toe, you're going to land, and once you're out here, you're going to find yourself tipping over. It's once you get to the outside of the foot, you've lost your balance. There is no balance there. So all balance is on that front inside quadrant of your foot.
So what's that last third movement? I want to just make sure we get it for the listeners.
Well, it's just called side to side. So if this is your feet, you're standing there. I'm just going boom, boom, just side to side like that. I'm just moving from one foot to the other, maybe only 2 feet. And then I go wider and wider, but I'm always trying to land on the inside of my foot. If I land on the inside of my foot and I roll to the outside, I've gone too far.
Okay, got it. So your feet aren't in tandem then. You're more wider and you're just going from side to side.
Right, one foot to the other foot, yeah.
Okay, and then what would be one more exercise on top of that?
Let's see, balance challenge.
And then how about just like if you're in tandem, can you just move one extremity away from the body? Would that start to cause your body to be a little bit more unstable and have to recruit more stabilizers?
Yeah, but if you do that, you end up getting on, you got to be careful because then you're on the outside of your foot.
Mm-hmm.
We'd much rather if you did something similar, you get on one foot and you take the off leg that's not on the ground and kick it behind you. And that'll cause you to get more on the inside of your foot. So if I'm doing, like I said, I wish I was in the studio, but if I'm doing this here, I could be dropping down and have that other foot kick behind me this way, and I'm on my left foot. That's more of a balance challenge than it is to have one foot and try to kick that foot out like that.
Got it.
So I want one foot here and the other foot to kick behind it.
Got it.
So if you stand there now on your left foot, just take your right leg and put it behind your left, and then just drop down. The more you can kick that left leg out to the side. See, my left leg's all the way out here. Right, my right leg's all the way out here. My left leg's here. That's more of a balance challenge.
So you pull that back leg out, and then you push it back and out a little bit.
Right.
Got it.
More can go for me.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd want to let the listeners know about kind of exercise, the slack line, or just improving your neurology and nervous system?
I just think it's, you get it. So, I mean, it's wonderful to speak to somebody who gets it. It's a hidden loss. We have four main categories four main things that we say cause us to lose our balance. And it's the modern world. And, I developed this index called the Klopman Balance Index, KBI. 0 to 100, 50 is average, 20 is you need a cane or a walker, 80 is like a college athlete, pro athlete, 90 is like a Seth Curry, 100 is like a Cirque du Soleil performer. The world we live in is built for level 20. It's built for people, walkers on canes. So you spend your whole life on perfectly flat floors with perfectly vertical surfaces around you. Every step is perfectly sized. So you have no balance challenge when you live in the modern world. So what happens is if you don't use it, you lose it. So you don't know that your system's getting degraded from a 50 to a 40 to a 30. Then you have a 60 challenge. You may not fall, you may not get hurt. But falls are the number one cause of injury and death for people over the age of 65. And that number's not going down. It has nearly doubled in the last 15 years. So how can that be with great doctors like you, great health all over the place? The falls are getting worse. It's because we're losing our balance system and we don't know it. It's an unseen loss. And there's other, reasons for the losses as well.
Interesting. There's also some research on vitamin D being a big thing with the vestibular system imbalance as well, which is interesting.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, excellent. You've given us some great information. Last question I ask everyone. If you're stuck on a desert island and you can only bring one supplement, herb, or vitamin or nutrient with you, what would it be?
Butter.
Butter. There you go.
Grass-fed butter because it's loaded with vitamin D anyways, and it's got a huge amount of nutrient value to it, and it tastes good.
I love it. I appreciate that, Jim. And again, Jim's website is slackbow.com. More information there. And we'll put any of the links that you mentioned earlier, we'll put it below the podcast description and the YouTube description as well. Awesome.
And I'll do a little video of those exercises so people see what I'm doing. So
excellent. Thanks, Jim Klopman, for coming on the show. You have an awesome day.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.